Thanks to Trade Coffee for sponsoring this video. This month, I turned 30 years old. Yes, how do you do, fellow kids? In this video, we're gonna go over 4 of the biggest regrets that I have from my 20s, from that decade of my life. This is a bit of a follow-up to a video I did a few years ago, going over some of the biggest mistakes I made as a student, and like that video, the purpose of this video is to impart some of the lessons that I learned through making mistakes and having regrets, and sharing them with you, so that you can hopefully make better decisions that help you optimize for the life that you wanna live. So with that being said, let's get into my first big regret, which has to do with a bad investment decision that I made. Now, I would love to make this a very juicy story by saying I YOLO'd all my life savings on GameStop calls last year, but that's not what happened. If you know me, you'll know that for the most part, I have a pretty boring and pretty solid investing strategy that I've stuck to for a very long time. And I'll actually give you the context behind that because it might be useful for you if you're a beginner investor. I started investing when I was 19 years old. I was sitting in a Java programming class in college. I was bored out of my mind, so I went and figured out how to start investing my money. I had about $1,000 that I could invest, which was fortuitous because at that time, as far as investments that didn't have high transaction fees went, $1,000 was the minimum buy-in, at least that I could find. So I took my $1,000 and I put it into what I thought was the only investment that I could get into for that amount of money, which was Vanguard's Star Fund. Now, this isn't a very aggressive fund as far as the stock market goes. It's pretty balanced and pretty conservative, but I just wanted to get started with investing. And after I had made that $1,000 deposit, I started putting in money every single month. When I was in college, it was little bits at a time, maybe $50 or $100 when I had it. And then when I graduated and started making real money through my company, I set up an automatic deposit that would deposit money every single month. So I basically had a robot doing my investing for me. And that had the dual effect of keeping my mind off of my investments so I couldn't make a stupid mistake. And it also utilized what's called dollar cost averaging, where you're putting money in every single month, or at least on a regular schedule, instead of trying to time the market. And over the long term, this strategy usually works better for the vast majority of investors. And because I've been following this strategy for over 10 years at this point, I've seen some great gains, partly due to the fact that the last 10 years have been incredible for the market, but also because I've been consistently investing and seeing that balance go up over time. But I've always had this philosophy where if I have, a pretty decent nest egg already, then I'm gonna take 99% of my investing capital and keep putting it into the boring stuff, but also on the side, maybe take 1% and put it into some things that I either believe in or think are fun. So a few years ago, I started buying the one individual stock that I now buy on a regular basis, which is Nintendo. I buy it not because I think I have some, super 4D chess strategy for winning the entire market by buying Nintendo. I buy Nintendo because I believe in Nintendo. I like the company, I love their products, so I want to own a piece of it, and it just so happens that it's been doing pretty well for me over the past few years. But I started getting re-interested in investing earlier this year, and as a result, I started following the market again. And this is where the regret comes into play, because since I was following the market, I was seeing some of the incredible gains that were happening in companies like Tesla. So what did I do? Well, I sold $1,000 of my Nintendo stock, which incurred capital gains tax because I sold it outside of a retirement account, and I went and I bought Tesla with that $1,000. So not only did I take a hit on the taxes that I had to pay with selling my Nintendo stock, but then I bought Tesla at a very high price and immediately saw that price crash down. And this is a regret not because I lost money, but because I violated the fundamental principles that I have been following as an investor for over 10 years, which is don't try to get smart, don't try to be cute, don't try to time the market, and don't be greedy when other people are being greedy. Tesla was a rocket ship at the time, so I should have said to myself, hey, that's probably going to come crashing down, instead of, falling into this very common mentality where people think, hey, it's gonna keep going up. This is called the hot hand fallacy. In sports, when a basketball player has made 3 or 4 baskets in a row, people tend to think, hey, they're gonna make the next basket. When we see a trend line, we just expect that it's going to keep going up. It's very easy to fall into this trap. So that's my regret. Not necessarily that I lost money, but that I lost money because I violated my own principles. So going forward into the future, I'm going to be sticking to my investing principles, which are these. Number 1, for companies that I own, like my own company, my YouTube channel, my website, or companies where I have an investment and an active hand in what happens in the business, like Nebula, swing for the fences, bet big. But for passive investing, if I'm just putting money into the market and hoping that it's going to grow, I need to stick to the tried and true principles, low cost index funds, or if I'm going to go into possibly riskier territory like individual stocks, it needs to be for a solid reason. believing in the company, looking at the fundamentals, not getting swept up in mania that happens in a short period of time and leaves people burned. Regret number 2, I wish that I had taken more breaks and more vacations. So the context here is that I absolutely had the ability to take more vacations over the last 10 years. And on many occasions, my fiance Anna had asked, hey, can we go to Europe? Can we go do something? Can we take a break? And the response in my brain almost every time was, you can't do that. You have too much work to do. And if you take this vacation, you are not going to be able to get all your work finished. So you better just bow out and keep working. This despite the fact that number 1, even though this is a productivity channel, I know for a fact that I waste a lot more time than I need to. And number 2, whenever business trips came up, opportunities where I saw, the ability to grow my business, I always jumped on those. And by jumping on those, I knew that I was putting my current workload on hold. There's no way I'm going to be able to fly to VidCon or fly to New York City to film a collab with, another YouTuber and also be able to do all the work that I'm supposed to be doing. So what I've realized over the last 10 years is, it's important to be ambitious, it's important to work hard, but it's also important to be very clear on what your values are. And there's a common pitfall here because some values are intangible while other values are very tangible. But in many cases, the intangible values are actually more important than the ones that we can see and track more easily. Spending time with my fiance, taking breaks, avoiding burnout, going on vacations, laughing and just making dumb jokes with Anna and my friends. These are things I value a lot, but they're hard to track. And I have to consciously remind myself of how important these things are to me when I'm constantly bombarded by the, more tangible values, things that have metrics attached to them, the money, the income in the business, the subscribers and views. And this reminds me of something that my fiance herself struggled with back when we were both in college. She was in design school, which admittedly had a much heavier workload than my business degree had. And she often felt like she could not take a break from her work to do something substantial that she wanted to do, like playing a video game or going out with friends, because she felt guilty and felt like she had to keep working. Yet, she will readily admit that she found herself procrastinating, going on social media a lot of the time, and that procrastination time ended up adding up to pretty much equal the time she would have spent, playing a video game, taking a real substantial break. These little sources of procrastination are like a productivity equivalent of the death by 1,000 paper cuts. And that's because they don't bring in that sense of guilt that we feel when we consider something more substantial, like a night out with our friends. We think, checking Twitter or checking Facebook, it's only gonna take 30 seconds, so it's harmless. And these social networks are designed to make you feel that checking them is harmless, but also to keep you coming back multiple times a day and to suck you in and keep you there for longer than you intended to be there. So the net result is that you end up wasting just as much time as you would have if you had truly taken a break. So when I look back 10 years from now on my 30s, I would love to say, hey, I took more real breaks and I used the time pressure created by those breaks to work more effectively during my real work time instead of getting distracted and looking at Twitter. Regret number 3, and I always do this 3 for some reason. I think I saw it in Inglourious Bastards and it just kind of got stuck in my head. But anyway, regret number 3 is buying a house in the suburbs. So last year, my fiance and I started looking for our first house and ended up buying it in the late fall. This was caused by me meeting another YouTuber who lives here in Denver, Charles Cornell. You might know him. I did a collab video with him and he does these amazing jazz piano videos. But I met him and he's like, hey bro, my girlfriend and I are looking for a house. The interest rates are great right now. You should go look for a house. So Anna and I started looking for houses. We got a great real estate agent. We toured dozens of houses and I was determined to make the right decision on my house purchase the first time. So we didn't go into this all willy-nilly. We went hardcore, like I often do with many things, and we did a ton of research. We toured around a lot, and I learned a ton about, mortgages and house financing and the expenses, to the point where I literally built a spreadsheet tool where you can put in multiple properties, put in their purchase price, put in your interest rate, your down payment, and see pretty much exactly what you're going to be paying every single month, which incidentally helped me avoid the biggest millennial home buying regret there is. I was actually watching a video from Graham Stephan earlier today, and he was reporting on this Bankrate study that found that millennials' biggest home buying regret is actually underestimating how much they're going to have to pay per month, because they see the mortgage amount that they get and they think, hey, that's what I have to pay. And they don't realize there's property taxes, homeowners insurance, maintenance costs. You maybe have to fix the boiler sometimes. There's a lot of hidden costs. So actually, if you're looking into getting your own home, keep watching, because I really want to impart this regret and lesson I learned to you. But also, my spreadsheet template is absolutely free, and I'll link that in the description down below so you can get a more accurate picture of what you would pay per month given a particular house's purchase price and your down payment amount and all that cool stuff. What I regret is the area in which I moved. It's a nice neighborhood, but it's very suburban. And the reason this is a regret is because every time I've made a list of pros and cons or a list of things that I've wanted in a house earlier in my life, say 5-6 years ago, I've always put things like, ability to easily walk to a coffee shop, ability to easily walk to a grocery store. In short, what I wanted was walkability. And I think we just got so excited looking at houses and thinking of what we were going to be able to do inside a house that we owned ourselves. And I also got excited at the prospect of being able to build a big new YouTube and music studio where I could customize everything I wanted. That priority, the walkability, sort of took a back seat to space. And now we've realized, hey, we're in a neighborhood where pretty much everyone drives everywhere, and it's not walkable. There's just nothing within walking distance. So we kind of regret the area in which we moved. And the lesson that I would impart to you is that if you're looking at buying a house and you already have a walkable lifestyle, but maybe you're annoyed by other things like dogs barking or neighbors or whatever, and you're thinking, hey, I could give up that walkability, really question that choice, because I've come to believe that walkability is actually one of the fundamentally most important things for a lot of people's happiness and for making a place truly livable. There's a great book by a guy named Jeff Speck called Walkable City, and I would highly recommend reading that book if you're at all interested in urban design and walkable neighborhoods. Regret number 4 is failing to stick to a small number of commitments so I could get very good at them. So looking back over the past 10 years of my life, I see a ton of hobbies, skills, and different pursuits that I picked up and then eventually dropped. Training for Ninja Warrior, learning to build iPhone apps, learning to sing, learning to play piano. I'm the kind of person who gets easily interested in a lot of different things. And when I get interested in something, I go hard on it. I get obsessed. I go learn as much as I can. I have like 50,000 browser tabs open. And the result of that is I kind of know a decent amount about a lot of different things that I've tried, which is useful for, pulling creative insights for videos, but it also means that I get easily interested in new things and end up dropping the old thing that I had just made a little bit of progress in. And looking back over the past 10 years, I look at certain pursuits like music in particular, and I wish I would have been able to stick with it a bit more. I'm pretty proud of the music I've put out. Over my music channel, I've got 3 songs that I've released so far, but I've released like 1 song per year at this point. And I can't help but wonder, if I had just committed to maybe putting out 1 song a month, where would I be? And I've talked about this in my podcast before. You kind of have this dilemma with hobbies where you either, allow yourself to just pick things up, drop them, and do things at your leisure, or you commit to something and you push through the dip, as Seth Godin calls it, where you get past that novelty period and you go through the slog where it's actually hard before you get to mastery. You have to do that if you want to get truly good at something. So it's kind of this, choice you have. Do I let myself have fun and have a casual life, or do I sacrifice and push through the hard times to get really good? And if I ask myself, at 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, what would I really regret? I would regret not putting more effort into music. I would regret not going harder on it than I currently have already. And I know from my experience as a YouTuber that the only way that I really stick to something for a long period of time, even when it gets hard, is when I create external systems that keep me accountable. With YouTube, it started out with a tool called BeMinder, where I would basically bet money that I would publish on a weekly schedule, and it would look at the RSS feed, which existed back then, and it would charge me money if I didn't publish a video. And at some point, that got replaced with sponsors sponsoring my videos, and the deadlines for those sponsor spots kept me accountable with real deadlines instead of fake ones on BeMinder. But in both ways, I've always had deadlines that have forced me to keep publishing on a pretty regular schedule instead of getting marred in perfectionism on one project, or eventually dropping this pursuit when I get, needlessly interested in something else. So when I make this video again at 40 years old, I want to look back and say, you set up systems of accountability and you put out more music. That's something that I care about, which is why this new set exists actually. I've spent the weekend setting up all my music gear so it's much easier to turn on and start creating. And that's really all we can do with our mistakes. We can take action using the lessons they impart to us to not make those same mistakes in the future. So whatever your own regrets are, own them, own your mistakes, learn from them, and use that knowledge to make better decisions going forward. Now, one decision that I definitely don't regret is making this delicious cup of coffee that I've been drinking while filming this video. And this roast in particular, it's called the Bowery from a roaster called Oren's, is my favorite coffee in the world. And I get it from Trade. Trade is a great way to try new coffees from independent roasters and have them shipped right to your door. And it's a great way to explore and expand your palate while also being pretty sure that you're going to get something that you love. Instead of rolling the dice, Trade has you take a quiz that ascertains your coffee preferences. Do you like it ground? Do you like it whole bean? Do you like it to be dark or light? And then once your preferences are saved, they're going to match you with new coffees that you're almost certainly going to love. All of my favorite coffees have come from Trade. They have never steered me wrong. So seriously, I think you are going to love it if you love coffee like I do. Once that quiz is done, all you have to do is select the delivery frequency and you'll get fresh coffee delivered right to your doorstep that is roasted and shipped within 24 hours of each order. So it's super duper mega fresh. And because you are a very discerning viewer of my channel, if you are one of the first 100 people to sign up at the link in the description down below, you're going to get 50% off your first bag. Just use the link down in the description, take the quiz, and use the code Thomas50 at checkout to get 50% off your first bag, get free shipping, and to support my channel. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and I will see you in the next one. Stay cute.